Hello and welcome to another Wellbeing Wednesday. I'm Karen of the Sovereign Mom, and this month we are focusing on Magical May, and so I have the privilege of bringing you a super woo. Hold on to your seats, super woo, advertising alchemist himself, Nathan Fraser, and author of this wonderful book that I read when I was making my sales page cheat codes. Thanks for being here, Nathan.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So I started following you through the anarchist groups and some of that stuff. And then I just started working on creating my own courses, and I needed to make a sales page, and your book came in so handy. Everybody was saying, oh my gosh, who did your sales page? It's so wonderful. I said, I did it myself with this little book right here. And then I sent a bunch of people to go buy it from you. So hopefully they did, because it's awesome. But you speak my language. I would not call myself magical, but I would call myself mystical. And I think that there's a lot of similarities because I studied mental science for a long time. And so we're definitely playing we're playing with the same stuff, but using just different words, I think, right? Is that what you would say?
Yeah, and I, up until recently, wouldn't have called myself magic or a believer of magic. Uh, it's a long, windy road that got us to where we are, but yeah, I'm not fighting the word magic anymore.
Yeah, you know what? There's like you have to come out of the closet with your woo eventually, because that's how you find your people, and that's how you eliminate the people that are not your people.
Yeah, and being in business and just kind of self-development and being somebody who wants to be introspective and cognizant of the subconscious programs that are driving me, I kind of got into like Tony Robbins and The Secret and uh, Rich Dad Poor Dad and all of these like business books. I don't know, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and I picked and choosed and chewed the fat and spit out what I didn't like. And it wasn't until very recently that I came to the realization, and then having worked with some very affluent, high influential uh, people in that industry, it wasn't until recently that I realized, oh, wow, these people, what they're talking about is very similar to the old magic belief system. It's just they found a new way to package it for self-development and whatever. And not going to give away any names on the podcast, but I've talked to people that are household names, and a lot of them are like, yeah, we believe in magic and we understand that it's more than just mindset, but you know, that a lot of the stuff kind of scares people off. So you got to be careful about how you word some of these things. But if you're into personal development, if you're a business owner trying to improve yourself to improve your business, you're probably learning from people who practice magic and just don't tell you it.
Yeah, yeah. In some way I mean, I believe like Jesus was a mystic and using, all of the things that were taught um in Christianity. That's where I came up. Um, and it turns out it's very mystical, and it's all this, you can do everything I can do and even more. And then all the Christians are like, no, no, only through the power of Jesus is this available. And Jesus is even like, you touched my robe, why'd you do that? Like, you do it yourself.
Yeah, and
don't,
it
don't
it's
steal
all
my power, use your own.
it's always a trip to me too that like, and I'm not gonna knock Christians because a lot of my favorite people in the world are Christians, uh, but it's so weird that the whole Bible is filled with stories about putting your staff down and separating the Red Sea and having a plague of frogs come, and a spirit comes and goes over every house except for the ones that are anointed, and uh, you just the faith of a mustard seed can grow into whatever, and you can move a mountain just with your faith alone, and
Hmm.
all of these things. I'm just like, you don't get that this is a book about magic. But
Right.
again, is what we're comfortable with. And I just recently became comfortable with using the word magic. So I understand.
It's scary. It's like using our anarchist this for the first time is very like, oh, like, do I want to say that? Because that's going to turn a lot of people off and that's going to scare a lot of people. And they have like a lot of wrong ideas about it. So it's like we almost have to make up our own new language because of how distorted
Mm.
words have become.
Mhm.
Um, but one of the things that fascinated me about what you've done recently that I don't know much about at all. I mean, I know like in Reiki because I was a massage therapist for a long time. We're talking about well-being and healing, and there's symbols with Reiki that you draw in the sky over somebody or even for distance healing. And you're using sigils now and talking about that. And tell me more about that.
Yeah.
Let me in on some of this good stuff.
So one of the things that people probably intuitively know is that our mind, especially our subconscious mind, the language it speaks is symbols. Uh, the way that we quickly grab something and make meaning out of it, a lot of the times it comes down to symbols. And even the language itself is just a bunch of symbols that have a specific meaning. And you can, if you're if you're part of the in group, you can look at the symbols on the paper and you can derive meaning from them. That's what spelling is. Spelling, coincidentally. Um,
Not so much.
but the the mind itself grabs and gives power to, and sometimes different cultures have different associations with different symbols, but our subconscious mind grabs images and symbols, and that's what it usually works with more so than communication verbally or anything like that. And so this is very big in like corporate advertising, corporate branding. They use symbolism all the time and little subconscious things. The pyramid is frequent, the sun symbol is frequent, uh, Statue of Liberty, the torch, all of these symbols have meaning. They have subconscious cultural meaning to them that we as the consumer, we don't even really recognize them. We see these symbols 1,000 times and we don't realize what the chevron means or what the flame means or what the pyramid means, but they're there for a reason. And it's because symbols have power when connecting with the subconscious mind. And so sigil magic, which is my favorite type of magic to perform at this current stage in my life, is based off of that. It's based off of creating your own symbols based off of an intent and using those symbols to trigger your subconscious mind to go out there and clear the path for the easiest way to get to the goals in life that you want. And it is scary how easily it works. At least for me, my experience has been uh almost almost to the point where I thought I was going crazy a couple of times, because I would be like, hey, I want this to happen, I'm going to make a sigil, and the very next day the exact same thing that I said I wanted to happen ends up falling in my lap. And yeah, it's in my opinion, as far as I can understand it, it's mainly due to the fact that symbols have such a huge pull on your subconscious mind. So be careful about the symbols that you surround yourself with.
Hello, and just a quick announcement for viewers of Wellbeing Wednesday. This month, I am promoting Melanie Moore's Magical May series. It's absolutely free. Melanie Moore is my personal EFT and big vision coach. In 2020, she helped me manifest a new house and chickens. In 2021, she helped me manifest $100,000 out of the blue. In 2022, she helped me manifest vibrant health and weight loss of 30 pounds. And in 2023, she's already helped me manifest free adventures and vacations for my family. And we've come up with a family vision statement. It's been fantastic. If you want some magic in your month of May, click the link for the Magical May promotion below this video. And as always, thank you for watching Wellbeing Wednesdays. Yeah, be careful what you wish for. Oh, yes. And what, yeah. I'm very big on vision boards. So I think is it like a similar concept of putting what you want in front of your face and seeing it, and then that helps magnify that in your mind that you're seeing the vision of it and
Well,
pulling it in.
yeah, and I think that vision boards, they work a little bit different, but the main idea is getting clear on what you want. And the reason that that works so well, I mean, most of us just go through our whole lives never getting clear on what we want. We
Yeah.
spend a lot of time dwelling on all the stuff we don't want, and we pour a lot of energy into thinking about that, but we don't really get clear. And it's hard to know. I mean, until you have it, it's hard to know what you want. And but if you do the practice of getting clear on what you want and really laying it out, making it real in something like a vision board or in something like sigil magic, uh it- it's like trying to navigate the seas without a north star. You're just going to kind of wind up somewhere, but you don't really know where. But if you know where you want to go and you're using the north star to direct where you're trying to go, you have a much larger likelihood of actually getting there. And so I think that vision boards and sigil magic at a very base level, it's just doing that. It's getting clear on what you want so that you have somewhere where you're sailing towards. And of course, if you have somewhere where you're consciously sailing towards, you're much more likely to reach it. Now, I think there are other things going on besides just that, but yeah, at the very base level, vision boards and sigil magic kind of work off that same principle.
Okay. So tell me about different sigils that you have used. Tell me some stories, like give me some examples, like more specific, like something that you desired. I say desire because I think of the sire of the master. There's like this master blueprint in my mind of how things are going. And it's like, ooh, day sire of the sire. So something within is part of my blueprint. I wanted what sigils have you used to bring about what outcomes specifically? Can you share some like more specific stories?
Yeah, so I do have a rule. Anything that I'm working on right now or that I've done and hasn't come to being yet, I really won't talk about. I will tell you about the very first time that I ever worked with sigil magic, and this was before I even believed in magic. I was just kind of like, things were happening, coincidences were happening in my life, and very big things that I just couldn't ignore as just a coincidence were happening. And I was like, okay, what the heck is going on? I started digging, and the first magical practice beyond like The Secret or something like that, the first thing that I came across was how to do sigil magic. And I was like, well, this seems kind of silly. I maybe even satanic. I don't know, but I'll just try it and see what's the harm. It's just probably me being dumb. Uh, I had just got a new client and I really loved working with his company and I wanted to make an impression. And I was like, I want this relationship between me and this guy to be very financially beneficial for both of us. I want both of us to make a lot of money by working together. And so that was my intent. And I used the Fehu symbol from the Viking runes or the Nordic runes. They have a symbol called Fehu, and it's all about wealth and abundance and security. And
Can you
uh,
do you have a pen and paper handy so I can see what that looks like? Or
oh gosh, I don't have a pen and paper handy, but I would recommend just look up Fehu, Fehu, for the listeners
okay.
if they want to see it.
Okay.
Uh,
I would have never been able to spell that on my own. Thank you.
yeah, so I just traced it and I put a circle around it and I meditated what I wanted out of this relationship, this business relationship. And uh, then I started kind of feeling self conscious about it and really silly. And I was thinking to myself, man, what a weirdo. Why are you doing this? So I stopped. I was like, all right, I'm done. And I folded it up and I went outside and I lit it on fire and released it into the atmosphere, into the universe. I think that's the biggest difference between like a vision board and sigil magic is after you're done with it, after you're done charging it and putting your intent into it, you get it out of your sight. Say, hey, go out into the universe. I don't want to be reminded. I want my subconscious mind to work on this. I don't want conscious reminders. And so that's what I did. And the very next day, I walk into the office where me and the IT guy are working on some website stuff, some sales copy for the website. And the owner of the business comes in freaking out, and he's like, dude, something's wrong. The site's broken. The store's broken. I don't know what's going on, but warehouse Kyle can't handle this. And we don't know what's up. And you guys got to figure out what's wrong with the store. And so the IT guy goes, well, what's going on? He goes, I don't know, but we're having double and triple reportings or something. There's all kinds of sales coming in, but we can't figure out which ones are real and which ones aren't. And so the IT guy logs into the store and looks, and he's like, no, all these are legitimate sales. I don't know why you thought that some of them were not. And he goes, well, it's 11 o'clock and we've never had this much business in one day. And the store,
Wow.
yeah, and they've been in business 6 years and it's not even noon yet. And they've already had more sales than they ever had a single day. And this was the day after I did the sigil magic. And I had just forgotten about it. I was feeling so
Like you were
embarrassed.
supposed to.
Well, I was self-conscious, so I didn't even want to admit to myself that I had done what I had did the night before. And so I was not even thinking about it. And then when he comes in and says that, all of a sudden my jaw just dropped and I was just like, holy cow, did that work? And I'm not going to go into details about other workings, but yeah, I've done it multiple times. And I would say 8 out of 10 of the times that I've done it, I've gotten what I said I wanted to have happen. And it has happened within sometimes a day later, sometimes that afternoon, sometimes 2 months later. And yeah, it's kind of scary. And so I, I even feel
Don't
a
use
little
the
bit
word
apprehensive.
scary. Don't
Well,
scare people more than they already are.
here's the thing. With great power comes great responsibility. Uh, Human beings are fallible. And I mean, you and me both are very hesitant about the power of politics. And when you start realizing that directing your attention and maybe we live in some sort of matrix and there's ways to hack the matrix and get cheat codes for the matrix, when you start to realize that and you're cognizant of how power can corrupt people, yeah, it is a little bit scary and you need to be careful and you need to take it serious.
Yeah, I think, well, my impression though, and maybe this is just because of how I grew up. I grew up with parents that taught me to second guess myself all the time. And in a lot of ways that did a lot of damage.
Yeah.
But in a lot of ways it makes me very cognizant of what I'm putting out there and how it may affect others. And I tend to think though that there's enough of everything in the universe that me having what I want isn't taking from somebody else. And so and I think that head trip in itself right there is part of what keeps people from generating in a lot of ways, is because that subconscious thought of, wow, if I put out what I want, I'm taking something away from somebody else, you know. You know.
There's that. There's also what you mentioned. There's enough out there that I can have without taking away from other people. There's a lot of people that get into magic and influence because I'm a marketer. I'm huge into influence and psychology and how the mind works. And there's a lot of people that get into this stuff and don't have that mindset. They don't have the abundance mindset. And for those people, yeah, having an influx of power can lead to a lot of bad problems. And I would just say I went through 10, 15 years of personal development, trying to train my mind, trying to become somebody who wasn't ruled by my limiting scarcity type beliefs, trying to be somebody who went into every situation looking for the win-win, looking for how do we both benefit from this? How do we not look at this as like a fixed pie situation? Uh, and then I discovered, holy cow, my it's not just mindset. My mind is actually changing the world around me. uh I had a lot of foundational self work before I discovered that. And I know people that are in certain orders like the Masonic Lodge or the Rosicrucians, and a lot of them say the same thing. The first 13 degrees or the first 30 degrees are a lot about training you not to abuse the power once we finally reveal the secret. Once we finally tell you, hey, all of these symbols are actually magical symbols and you live in a universe that's alive and you can communicate with it and you can get it to do the things you want it to do. We spend 30 degrees before we teach you this. We spend however many initiatory practices developing you into somebody who can handle this power and not abuse it. And I think a lot, especially nowadays with interviews like this on the internet that are available readily to anybody who wants to listen to it, there's not that safeguard like it used to be. And so, yeah, I am a little bit concerned about it.
Yeah, I think I understand that. And there is still, like, we're both what, anarcho-capitalists. So there's that capitalism part. It it it's not so much free market as it also implies a certain level of competitive thinking. And that competitive thinking and using this is like, I'm going to beat out somebody for what I'm getting here. Um, rather than thinking, I'm going to create new clients, people that hadn't thought of working with somebody like me before, somebody that hadn't thought about getting healing. And they are going to work with me because of my personality. And that's what's going to work for them. It's because there's like a special relationship between us because of some greater reason that we were supposed to come together, that's really personal, and it's not about numbers and just getting as many as I can. Does that make sense? Am I
Yeah. And you hit on something that I also think is important is a lot of the reason that I got into this and a lot of the reason that I still stay with it and I was into it before I even realized I was into it is the healing factor. So a lot of people get into this saying, how can I change the world to make it fit me better? And very early on in life, I took the opposite route. How can I change myself so that I can feel happier? How can I find happiness in myself? How can I make myself into somebody who is happy rather than how can I make the world into something that makes me happy? And I think that a lot of activism, especially when I was younger, one of the things that pushed me away from activism, even in the anarchist libertarian side of things, is this desire to change the world. We need to change people. We need to make people understand the values of freedom. We need to make them understand the downfalls of hierarchy, and we need to change the political system, and we need to reform the police, and we need to. And when I first got into business, one of the first lessons that I learned was don't try and change the customer, try and change yourself so that you can be a better fit and you can be somebody who is better for the customer. And that leads to being better for yourself. And that is one thing also that I think that gets skipped over by a lot of people that get into Magick. But one of the things that I liked about you is you're all about healing and using this stuff, using the meditations and being cautious about, am I doing this just because I'm being selfish? Am I doing this because it's helping people? And one thing that I've noticed is a lot of times when I'm creating my sigils, when I'm creating my intent, one thing that really makes them impactful and makes them work faster is when I'm thinking about how is this going to improve other people? How is this going to improve my relationships with people? How is this going to benefit my client? How is this going to benefit my daughter? How is this going to benefit the people that I care about? Putting that intent into it as well, rather than just how is this going to help me. Um, there's a lot of stuff that I wish when people got into how do I cast a spell to make somebody fall in love with me? I wish that all of this pre-framing was built into it, but it's not, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, that's oh, and that's always a sad one too. That when you just brought up, that's like the saddest thing I can think of. Let's make someone fall in love with me specific. Like, what
Well,
if they're not meant for you? What if something so much better out there is meant for you, and you're allowing this person to be the wall between you and what you really deserve?
and the other thing too, back to healing, is uh, why do I need somebody else to fall in love with me when I haven't learned how to fall in love with myself yet? And
Mm,
if you don't know how to value yourself, how to love yourself, how to treat yourself like you love yourself, trying to, just like all things, just like happiness, trying to find happiness in the world, trying to change or mold the outside circumstances without addressing the inside circumstances. And I, I don't know how far down the rabbit hole you're willing to go, but I am 100% in the belief that as above, so below, as within, so without. The the tree can only grow as strong as the roots are. And a lot of us want the tree to produce a bunch of fruit, but we don't ever think about the roots. We never think about what's inside of me. What are the stories that I'm telling myself? What are the things that I need to heal from that I'm avoiding instead of learning to heal from? And how are they affecting my relationships and the type of people I'm attracting and the type of situations I'm attracting? And we want to attract better situations, and we go light a candle and chant some Latin words while the candle is burning, and hopefully that's going to change my outside circumstances. But even if it does, if you haven't changed your inner circumstances, if you haven't changed your inner state, a change in the outer state will quickly go back to the medium, go back to where to the mean. So yeah, again, this feels like a conversation on all the things people should know about before they ever try magic.
Well, that's okay too. Um, for me, I don't know if you've heard this story, but a year and a half, 2 years ago, about 2 years ago, I had like money on my vision board. I'm like, I'm going to actually put money on my vision board. How crazy is that? Because I always thought, no, don't put the things money buys on the vision board. But I actually dared to put money itself on the vision board, which was really weird. And then I was called during the vision board experience with my friend to like, it was after it was over. I was by myself and I was like, I really need to heal a relationship with my mom. And I had in my mind that I needed mothering that I didn't get from my mom, and I didn't have a relationship with my mom anymore, but that I needed to know that there was like a maternal support system for myself. And so I had the moon as kind of like my symbol at the time. And I did some EFT tapping. Are you familiar with
Yep.
EFT? Okay. So I did that until I was like sobbing and I just completely let it go. And then within, I think it was like a week later or within a week, it was within a few days, I got a check for $100,000 in the mail from my mom, who I hadn't talked to in years, with no return address, no need to call her anymore. Just like the
Wow.
universe showing up as money. And through my mom, of all weird people to pick, to send me a check for $100,000 out of the blue. And it was just like, whoa, like this stuff can really, but it does have to do with like, what is it internally that like I was hanging on to that I had to let go? And that was the desire that my mom would fit into this mold for myself to be mothered, rather than the universe is here. It's got my back. God has sent us, like, as I call, the moon as a symbol of like a maternal energy of like the women's cycles and all the things that whatever, that it's there for me no matter what. And I had to just appreciate it truly in my heart. Like, I don't know if that sounds right, but
Oh, I'm feeling it. It sounds exactly right.
yeah, so it was just like, oh gosh, I have to embrace that it's there for me and that I'm not alone anymore. And I had to let go of this sense of lacking a mother. That was what it really was. And that person had to be my mother. It's the similar to the make this person fall in love with me. It was like this for years, make this person mother me, and it wasn't going to happen. And I let her go for years, but I really still in the back of my mind hadn't let go of the I'm without a mother, that lack energy. And so to just release it into the universe, it was just like the universe was like, hello, here's money.
Well, yeah, and that goes again back to we spend a lot of time focusing on what we don't like and what we don't want. And if you focus on lack and you focus on want, you're going to get more lack and you're going to get more want. And I
Yeah.
know it sounds woo and it sounds, oh, well, it's real easy for you to say. But I mean, we see it just the way it works. We always talk about, oh, rich people have everything handed to them for free. Well, successful people always have more chance of being successful. Well, yeah, because once you get in that rhythm, once you get in that flow, and there's physical world circumstances and there's uh, psychological reasons for this, but once you're focused and once you're thinking about what you want and living in alignment with making it happen, and you are focused on the things that you desire rather than the things that you're afraid of, rather than the things that you're angry about, it just starts happening. Those things just start showing up. And it's the same way when you wake up in the morning and you stub your toe and you just think about how horrible life is because you stubbed your toe, the rest of the day is going to suck. But when you wake up in the morning and you stub your toe and you stop and think, well, at least I've got 2 feet and I've got a house and I've got a couch to stub my toe on, the rest of the day is going to go different. It's undeniable. The mindset and the way that you think and where you direct your attention. And again, working on yourself and living in alignment with what you want. And there's all these things that we're just not taught. We're told not even to think about. And that's just Harry Potter fantasy stuff. But man, it works. And once you start seeing it work, it's hard to go back to living in denial about it.
Well, it's even in the Bible, to he who hath shall be given, to he who hath not shall be taken, even that which he hath. And so that is what that's talking about. And then in all things, give thanks, whatever it is. It doesn't mean you have to give thanks for stubbing your toe. It just means you give thanks for all the other things around you. Like, man, that could have been a lot worse, you know?
Yeah.
Like, thankfully it wasn't. I was really lucked out. I could have stubbed my toe and fallen and broken my face too, It didn't
Yeah.
happen that way. I still have a beautiful face. Thank you.
Yeah, and going back to the Bible, we were raised Christian-ish, as much as you can be raised Christian in the modern world, and there are so many great lessons like that. But I think that just like all things, I think that the church incorporated has twisted and manipulated and took in a lot of things out and reframed a lot of things to make people feel disempowered and make people feel like they need the hierarchy of the church. And maybe that's just a response to the fact that most people just want hierarchies, and that's just part of
That's
human
true.
nature.
That's
So
true. That's true. Yeah.
so I try not to place any blame, but um yeah, man, there's so many great psychological uh magical insights inside the Bible. I know magicians that their whole practice is based off of reading the Bible, and I have a friend who's a magician who he has an entire practice based off of just the book of Psalms. And so I don't think that it's impossible to be a Christian and a magician or somebody who is mystic. There are mystic Christians. So I'm not like one of those magicians that's like, oh, the Salem witch trials, and I'll never trust the Christians again. I got a lot of love for Christians and Christianity as a whole.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. All of it. All of that. Yes. Um uh it's I mean, Jesus was a mystic, like I said at the beginning. It's just like there it is. He was probably the greatest mystic there ever was. Walked
Absolutely.
on water. Come on. It could be done. I totally believe it. So um you and you were talking about coming up, Christian coming up, but thinking of that, I was born in you're from Norwalk, right?
Yeah, I was not born in Norwalk, but I grew up in Norwalk, California.
Okay. I was born in Norwalk. My grandparents were in like Bellflower. My dad went to Bellflower High. I went to Valley Christian in Bellflower, Cerritos area. So yeah, we're both from the same town, which is so you're in, and now we're in the same time zone because you're in Colorado and I'm in Utah. So that's kind of funny too.
Yeah, I not relevant to the listeners, but where I grew up, I was right across the bridge, and I was in Bellflower. And man, I loved living in California and grew up super hardcore liberal because of it. And now I thank God that I escaped California and escaped the cult of leftism, because not to knock anybody, because I was on that same path for a long time, but I feel grateful that I found libertarianism and even to a degree, anarcho-capitalism, and I was able to escape the leftist cult that I grew up in, growing up in California.
And a lot of people in mental science, and I think you were saying it on one of your podcasts, that like even people that are into magic, it's like there is like that super left leaning contingent. And it I grew up I was fortunate. I grew up mostly in, like, my parents were from there, but I grew up mostly in Orange County, so we were more conservative, and so I didn't have as much of that money is evil. Um, making money is a bad thing. People who make money are greedy and terrible. And then that whole like extra layer of like victim on top of everything else that the leftist cult. I think it's a good way to put it because it's so much about victimization and it's so much disempowerment. And you look around and you see like I think one of my friends said, the left has been voting the same way for 100 years and look how far it's got them. Like it's not like it's like the poor have been voting left forever and they're still poor, and
Mhm.
I think that says a lot because it is a cult. It's a mindset and it's just this perpetuating belief that in I don't have enough and I have to get it from out there. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about right now too. So
Mhm. And the self-healing thing that you were talking about, I can win the lottery, but if I have these ingrained beliefs that money is bad and money makes people bad and money is the root of all evil and more money, more problems, if I win the lottery or I find a good high paying job, now I've got conflict with the outside world and I haven't healed the inner world. And the same thing with love. If I'm trying to find somebody who's a good partner for me, but I don't believe that I deserve it, or I believe, oh, she's going to find out the real me and she's going to realize that I snore too loud and sometimes I fart in the car and she's never going to be able to love me once the real me comes out. Um, that conflict between the inner talk and the unresolved trauma issues and all of that stuff, even if you get the outside stuff, it's not going to last. Even if you win the lottery, you're going to find a way to make yourself poor again because you haven't worked on those inner stories and the inner programming. And yeah, that's why I feel like whether it's magic, whether it's business, whether it's relationships, the inner healing, the understanding yourself, understanding your subconscious programs, being able to examine them and ask yourself, are these really serving me or were they just something? Are these the shoes that protected my feet when I was 7 years old and I'm still wearing them, expecting them to still protect my feet now that I'm in my 30s? Having that ability to do that and make sure that the inner you is in harmony and resonance with what you want in the outside world. And that's a huge principle of magic that really makes it work is making sure that the outside is harmonious with what's on the inside.
yeah. My vision board actually says as above, so below. So I have that on my vision board and it has a picture of like the sky and the earth, it's not as this is what I want on it. I mean, there's a little bit of that too, but in there, but that background, the backdrop of it all is that I know, like if I'm dealing with guilt, I need to work on that because guilt seeks punishment, it's just like
Yeah.
tries to find a way to like hurt myself, sabotage myself that I don't even see, and it could be that I'm just calling in experiences of you know, attracting experiences of just pain and misery because of like really a deep feeling of pain on the inside that it can happen.
Yeah, I think I've noticed in myself and not to project, but I've noticed in a lot of other people, unresolved trauma, we keep attracting new situations and new people so that we can play it out over and over again until we deal with it. And that's when we finally say, you know what, I'm going to stop pulling these type of people and situations into my life.
Yeah. And yeah, do have to deal with the traumas. And then there is that point where you go, okay, can I imagine something better for myself? And that's like the other like little breakthrough spot where you can like go, okay, all this unrealized trauma can be like a sort of fertilizer for the garden here. Like this
Mhm.
doo-doo that I'm stepping in right now could be the fertilizer for this, but I do need to like at least contemplate like what could I have if I could have whatever I wanted, or what would it what like this day is going bad. How do I wish it had been going? To stop. And I ask my kids that sometimes, like how, like I like they're feeling terrible, and it's kind of like this cycle of caca. And I'm like, okay, so is this how you want to be feeling? How do you want to be feeling?
Yeah.
No, okay, let's think about like what if like you could have whatever you wanted right now, and then how would that make you feel? And let's get into that feeling state and then see if things can shift and get closer to the what you're desiring, because it's going to start with the feeling, is how we look at it.
I love the mindset shift there of saying, I don't want to deal with this poop, but maybe I can turn it into fertilizer and use it to grow the fruits that I do want. That's just amazing.
I wish I had thought of it myself. It was Tom Pauly. I'm rich beyond my wildest dreams. I am. I love that book. It's like one of my favorite books of all time. And he talks about that. You're walking through the Verdant Garden, and then it starts raining on you, and then you step in something nasty. But that's part of the chemicalization process of getting what you want, is realizing you do need fertilizer and you do need rain to make a beautiful garden. So
Yeah. Wow. So powerful. Okay. Real quick question
yes.
for you. I should have asked at the beginning of the podcast, how long does this episode go? And do I get to plug myself at the end?
I would love for you to play. It's right at that time, actually. So you're right there, like 45 minutes to an hour usually, and we're right about there. And I do want you to plug yours. I mean, I plug away. I want to get my hands on you. You have sigil something available, and I don't have them. What do I need to do to get them?
Okay. So at the risk of letting power fall into the wrong hands
But this
and
show is all for people that are like working on well-being. So this is the right hands.
okay, perfect. So yeah, I do have a free training where I show people, I walk people through the whole process of how I craft my sigils, how I charge them, how I create them, and how people can do it themselves. Everything from getting clear on the intent to turning it into a symbol to supplanting it in your unconscious mind, and then how to release it into the universe and allow it to turn into whatever it is that you want it to be. Uh, all of that is available at my website, stickerspells.com. And if you go there, there's going to be some sigil stickers that you can buy, but there's also a free training right at the top. And all you have to do is give me your email so I know where to send it to. And I will hook you up with it's only 20 minutes long. And by the end of it, you'll be a master at creating, crafting, and charging sigils. And I would love to hear any kind of stories that people have as a result. And I would say the one thing that I would warn about, the first time that you do this, it feels like there's like a sense of beginner's luck. Everybody that I know that's gone through the course and done it, they're like, dude, it worked. And it didn't take 2 weeks. It worked like 3 days later. And I feel like there's maybe like an energetic buildup that we go our whole lives collecting this energy. And the first time we try something like this, it like blows up. We're like, oh, it just to show itself, dude, look at how much power you have. And so I always love hearing those stories, but just with a fair warning, like you said earlier, be careful what you wish for. Sometimes I've heard of people being like, I really want to stop smoking. That's what I'm going to do a sigil for. And 2 weeks later, they get a pregnancy test back that they're pregnant and they have to stop smoking. So be careful what you wish for.
I love it. I love it. You know what that reminds me of when you're saying this about like that beginner's luck and that culmination do you know like the most venomous snakes are baby snakes?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because
Because
they have never released their venom.
right. And they don't know how to control how much they release on whatever prey, so or danger or threat or
Yep.
whatever. So it's kind of like that, maybe it's the baby snake phenomenon.
Oh, it's totally like that. Yeah. So any kind of results that people get, I'd love to hear about it. And again, if you want to go check out the course, it's free. Or if you want to go check out some sigil stickers that I have available, stickerspells.com. And Karen, thank you so much for having me on. This has been such a fun conversation.
Thank you. I've been like so excited to talk to you and to like share your like little goodness with my community. And so and also can we like plug some of this stuff too? Because this is kind of magic.
Absolutely. So in my other life, I am a sales and marketing guy. I write sales copy, sales pages, sales funnels, and I have a couple of books available on Amazon.com. Just check out sales page cheat codes, sales funnel cheat codes, startup cheat codes. It's all the I hate the fluff and the long books. I like to just get straight to what works. And the cheat codes is because yeah, we live in a matrix and there's cheat codes to making things work faster for you.
Yes, yes. So there it is, everyone. There's Nate's beautiful face on the back.
Thank you so much for having me on, Karen. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate it too. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I hope you do continue to have the rest of a magical May. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Have a wonderful week.